Hey guys, so I have been wanting now for a little while to make a video about the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette, which I picked up about was it a week ago, or right before Christmas, and I had a 20% off coupon at Ulta. And I kind of wanted to just share my thoughts, a little bit first impressions, more than a first impressions, because I've used it probably 4 or 5 times now. And I, more importantly, wanted to give you some MAC alternatives and dupes, because that was one of the videos I wished I would have seen before I bought this. That was the first thing I went on to look for, is dupes of MAC shadows, because that's so much of what my collection consists of. And I couldn't find any videos like that. So I thought maybe if anybody else was in my boat and looking for something similar, this video would help you. There are some really great dupe videos out there. Like I saw one from Emily Noel, which I'll link in the description box. She does a really extensive review on the palette and shows dupes from all over and dupes in different palettes, but she didn't really touch on any MAC shadows, so I'll link her video if you're looking for other dupes aside from MAC. But if you want some MAC alternatives, I feel like I'm getting all tongue twisted, then hopefully this video will help you. So I'll start out by just reviewing the palette, doing some swatches, and then I'll show you some comparable shadows that MAC puts out. So the palette retails for $27, and like I said, I used the 20% off coupon, and it's now sold at Sephora and Ulta, as well as UrbanDecay.com. I love the size of it. It's compact, it's small, it's very travel friendly. You get 6 shadows, and the casing is kind of like a rubberized, but not as much as like the NARS packaging is. It's a little bit like, kind of a mix between like rubber and plastic, if that makes sense. It does get dirty very easily. I just take a makeup wipe and it cleans up really nicely. So, mirror inside, and then you get these 6 shadows. For the most part, they're matte, but there is 1 or 2 satins in here. So the colors are Venus, Foxy, WOS, Naked 2, Faint, and Crave. And I was super excited about this palette because I love matte shadows, and I love the fact that these are all in one place. That was my kind of reasoning to get this. Now that I've had it, I feel a little bit differently. I don't feel like there's enough contrast and dimension in this palette. Like, there's 2 colors, shades in specific, that I really wish was included in this, which I'll get into more. But nonetheless, Urban Decay makes amazing shadows. I have no complaints. I've always been a fan of their shadows. I love their naked palettes. And I feel like this was a long time coming, because so many people had been saying they wish that the naked palettes would contain more than 2 matte shadows, and they didn't. So it was kind of like a sequel to the naked palettes, but I just wish it was more, like a little bit more color range wise. So I'll just swatch each on the back of my hand, and then I'll get to show you them. So this is Venus, which is the first one. And Venus is definitely the most satin-like of all of them. It's not shimmery, it just has that satin finish. Next to it is Foxy, which is a really nice kind of buttery, creamy yellow beige, followed by WOS, which is a bit of a blah color. And then Naked 2, which I really happen to like. It's almost like a muted taupey gray-brown color. Next to that is Faint, which is a cool tone brown, and then Crave, which is obviously the matte black. Now Crave, I will say, all 6 of them was the most gritty to me. These other ones felt buttery soft and creamy. Crave, when you go to swatch, it feels very gritty. And it even kind of swatches a little bit chalky. Just something to keep in mind. So right off the bat, like I said, the quality of these shadows is really nice. The payoff is nice. I didn't swatch these hard. I just did like a swipe and then on my hand. So beautiful pigmentation. I, for one, really would have loved to see a more dimensional brown in here, like a color like soft brown from MAC. I would have loved to see in here, because I feel like, well, for me anyway, soft brown is one of my staple colors that, regardless of what brands and palettes I'm working out of, soft brown is usually a color I reach for to create dimension, to blend out harsh lines. It's just a color that I go to so frequently, because it's like, it matches my skin tone so well. It doesn't match my skin tone, it just goes with my skin tone so well. I would have loved to see a more warmer brown in this palette. The brown that's in it is okay. I don't love it. I wouldn't get the palette just based on the brown. So I would have loved, like I said, to see a color a little bit more dimensional than these plain colors. The other thing I would have loved to see in here would have been like a matte gray, like Scene from MAC or something like that. Urban Decay has, is it Creed? I don't know. They have like a shimmery gray in one of their palettes. I would have loved to just see a gray. I feel like they could have even swapped out this black for a gray, and then I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant about this black. I feel like I understand the reasoning behind putting a matte black in this palette. I feel like you really can't find a palette nowadays that does not contain a matte black, and I get it. I understand why it's there. It's a nice finish for a lot of people. It's a nice setter. It's a nice color to set your eyeliner. I get it. But at the same time, there's so many palettes now out, and I feel like every single one of them contains a matte black, to the point where I just don't think anyone would have missed having this if it wasn't here. And I feel like this slot could have been put to a much better use. Notice I had lipstick streaks there. Yeah, I just did not feel like a matte black needed to be in this palette. Sticking with that, I feel like most people that bought this already have either one or both of the Naked palettes, in which you don't need another matte black. There's blacks in both of those. They're not completely matte, but it serves its purpose. So I just feel like this slot was really wasted. They could have put a nice matte gray, like a cool tone matte gray color in here. So that's my little rant about the matte black. I just feel like it wasn't necessary. I wouldn't have missed it if it wasn't there, and I feel like this could have been a much better color. Overall, I'm glad that I bought this. I don't regret buying this, only because, like I said, all your mattes are in one place. However, this isn't the end-all be-all of matte shadows for me. Like, every day that I've used this, I've still used my MAC Soft Brown. If I wanted to take this with me traveling somewhere, this wouldn't be the only palette I would take. Like, I would take this and maybe 3 other shades, or maybe one other whole palette. Only because I feel like after working with this for a little while, there's only so many combinations you can do. Like, I feel like you're very limited. So Venus, I really like it. It's a nice satin. It's a nice highlight color. Foxy, I definitely love Foxy. I think it's a nice, like I said, it's a buttery cream yellow. If you have any redness or veins on your eyes, it's a beautiful color to just give it a wash and cancel out all that other color, all those other colors and discoloration. WOS, a waste of space. I don't feel like it's a unique color. I don't feel like it really serves its purpose. Naked 2, again, I like it. It's a really pretty color. I don't think it's that far off from Naked 1. And like I said, most people that bought this probably bought this because you have the other Naked palettes, in which case you wouldn't need a sequel to Naked, because Naked kind of, it's all you need. Faint is nice, and then you know my feelings about Crave. So those are the colors, those are my thoughts. Now let me just give you some MAC alternatives. Starting with Venus, I couldn't find an exact, now mind you, I don't have the extensive MAC collection. I just have, it's a large collection, but I don't have all of them. So there probably might be better dupes out there, but I just went by the colors that I have. So for Venus, the closest thing I could find was Floof. And I will swatch it next to it. It's not exact, but it is close. This is Floof. Floof has more pink undertones and it's a little bit more shimmery, not as smooth as Venus, but nonetheless, it's close enough for me. Foxy, which is the yellowy one, I could not find a color in my collection, hence why I'm happy with it. I'm glad that I have it in this palette. It's very unique. I tried to compare like Brulee, which is this color, but Brulee is just a straight beige. It doesn't have any of the yellowy undertones to it. So here's Brulee. That's Foxy. So you can see there, Foxy definitely has some more yellowy undertones. Now for WOS, which is the color I said could take it or leave it, I thought that Bisque would be a nice alternative. Funny thing is, so here is WOS, here's Bisque. Bisque is not that far off from Naked 2 either. So Bisque is a little bit deeper. You obviously could sheer it out, but it's definitely the closest color I have to WOS. I feel like if you mixed Bisque and Brulee, you would get WOS. And then for Naked 2, I pulled Omega. Which looks like that. In the pans, they're very, very similar, and they're really not that far off swatched. So you can see it. It almost looks like the same color. So this is Naked 2. This is Omega. So really not that far off. Like I said, it kind of just looks like one swipe of a color. Faint, I didn't have anything exact. The closest I could find to that is Cork from MAC, which is a little bit lighter. But it's kind of still in that cool tone family. Faint is a little bit darker. So there is Faint, and that's Cork. And like I said, the closest that I had to it. So here again, Faint is a color that I don't love the color brown that it is, but I'm glad that it's in this palette because I don't have any other shadows from MAC that's similar. And then obviously Carbon would be your matte black. Now this was quite a shock, so let me swatch it. Carbon is much softer, whereas Crave, like I said, is very gritty. So if I just do one swipe, the same as I did for Crave, this is Carbon, this is Crave. So Carbon is really not as black or as pigmented as Crave. So in that aspect, Crave is a nice matte black to have. But for me, it's still like, a matte black is a matte black to me. Like I don't need like an intense matte black because for the most part I use them to just set my eyeliner, not so much as a shadow. But nevertheless, I find it very interesting because when I first started collecting makeup and getting into it, I used to think that MAC Carbon was like the end-all, be-all, like everybody needed to have the best black ever. And since then, so many other brands have released matte black colors that blow Carbon away. So I'm to the point now where I could take it or leave Carbon. I never even reach for it anymore. I just find better alternatives. Even Wet n Wild makes a matte black. I'm drawing on the name of it, that is so much more comparable and blacker, like more opaque, richly pigmented. So, but if I wanted to build up the color of Carbon, I really could get it to match Crave. So that is my overview and review and thoughts and dupes for MAC that I have found. I hope that this was helpful to you. Like I said, I don't regret buying it. I like that they're all in one place, but it's not the end-all be-all, and it's definitely not the only palette I would ever take with me if I was going out of town and I wanted to take shadows with me. I feel like I would definitely want to bring a couple singles along. So would I recommend this palette? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think it just depends on the kind of collection that you already have. It's a tough call. I would say if you are limited on the matte shadows, then yes, definitely I would recommend it. If you have the MAC dupes that I have or any of the other dupes that have been out there named, I do not think that you need this palette unless you want to buy it solely based on the convenience factor of having them all in one place to take with you to travel or anything like that. But like I said, I've used it 4 or 5 times now and I'm kind of out of ideas of what to do with it just because, you know, the light colors, you go on the lid or as a highlight, and then the brown in the crease. I don't really use black all that much, like I said, unless I want to set eyeliner, which hasn't really been the case lately because I use gel or liquid, and I usually tend to set my liner when it's a pencil liner. So I'm kind of running out of ideas of what to do with this, but they are nice blend out colors, transitional colors, or just kind of like easy when you're not sure of what kind of eye look you want to do. You could come up with something very simple and easy and fast from this palette. So as far as if I recommend it or not, just like I said, I think it depends on the selection that you already have, how much you enjoy using matte shadows, and if it's worth having 6 shadows all together or just getting, you know, is it worth just getting a Z palette and putting your favorite more dimensional MAC shades in here. It's up to you. So nonetheless, I hope that this video helped you in some way and gave you some insight into this palette if you were on the fence about getting it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!